Well, hello, everybody. I'm Hal,
And I'm Melanie.
and we want to welcome you back. We are in the middle of a discussion about how to raise a culture of sibling unity and not sibling rivalry, how to have peace in your home, even though you got a whole bunch of active kids.
Even if you have 6 boys in a row like we did,
Yeah, learn that. Well, you got boys, you got competition.
you do have
That is
competition.
very
They
likely.
love competition. They crave it. In fact, you know, these non-competitive games that they played in PE by the time.
They're not even games.
Yeah,
They don't even
where
count.
you play with the parachute material and everybody lifts up the parachute and then it floats down and then everyone lifts it up and it floats down.
I
Lifts it
never
up
figured
and
out
it
how,
floats
how to
down.
score that.
You
I don't
don't.
know.
Everybody wins. It's just
No,
beautiful.
nobody wins. If
It's
everybody
just
wins, nobody
beautiful.
wins.
A
That's
guy did
dancing.
not make that
No,
up,
they did not. No, they did not. Okay.
Guys want to win
All right.
and they want to test their strength. They want to
Mhm.
know where they fit in the pecking order. They want to know how strong they are and are they able to stand up.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, I don't, but it can get bad.
It can be bad, and within a family, it can be dicey because you've got all different ages,
Yes.
and you may have a 17-year-old son and a 5-year-old son, and neither one of them wants to recognize that the other is different. You know, the 5-year-old wants to take on the 17-year-old, do everything 17-year-old does. The 17-year-old gets upset at 5-year-old and wants to knock him,
And wallops him
wallops
because
him in the next week
it's like,
because he's like,
wait a minute, wait a minute. You weigh 195 pounds and
Mhm.
this child weighs 45 pounds.
Yeah, but
Excuse me?
he stepped on
Yeah.
my foot. You don't realize, wait a minute, there's a big difference
Yeah, they don't
here.
see it. They just see each other's
Uh-uh.
siblings. They
So
can't see the differences.
so how can you make the competition something that can be beneficial even?
And one thing is they can compete against themselves.
Okay.
Beat
Mhm.
your best time. Let's all
Well,
see if we can beat our best
well,
time.
you do that with their math worksheets.
I'll pass out math worksheets,
Uh,
100 sheets.
yeah.
In our family, if you can do 100 sheet in less than 5 minutes, all the from addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, you get to use a calculator. So there's a lot of motivation.
Okay.
Now, what I don't tell them is that means they've memorized the math facts. They don't need to not use a calculator any longer.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
but I'll pass them out, and the 17-year-old that passed it 3 years ago will walk by and say, "Hey, can I have one of those?" He just wants to compete. He wants to see how well he can do. And so they can compete against their own times.
Mhm.
You can give kids a handicap.
Okay.
Like, for example, if they are competing on throwing the football in the front yard,
Right.
the little kid gets to start closer to the finish line than the kids in the back.
Mhm. Yeah.
The younger, the weaker child gets a handicap. You can also do is work it together as teams.
Well, and we found that was really effective as the ages spread out. And what we would do, let's say you had 6 boys like we did, and they're ranging in age from like 18 down to what would the youngest be at that point? 6?
And the boys are 14 years apart, so
Yeah,
4 or
4,
5,
4,
yeah.
5. Okay, so you have the 18-year-old pairs up with the 4-year-old. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the 16-year-old pairs up with the 6-year-old. And you move them together like that. You squeeze them in so that the two that are in the center are paired up. But then the older they are, the younger they have as a partner.
Because often the little kid just wants to shake the dice and move the man. And the
Mhm.
older kids want to get into strategy. And to pair them together like that allows everybody to get what they want. And it's neat to see the relationship building that does.
And you can do things like you say, okay, you older guys are not allowed to use your hands. You have to tell the younger one what to do.
Yes.
And so you could say, they're sitting there and you could say, okay, now I want you to move that piece 4 spaces farther on the board. Do you tell me where that's going to go? Okay, yes, move it there. And that's try that. That's a pretty good skill to be able to give to give directions.
It is. And they've enjoyed that a lot. I was
Mhm.
so happy when we discovered that because for a long time our kids wanted to play games,
Mhm.
but the little kids couldn't play the same games as the big kids, and it's hard.
Yeah.
And when we figured that out, then suddenly everybody wanted to play games all the time.
Mhm.
And they'd play Clue, they'd play Millborns, they'd play Monopoly, all kinds of different things.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's a healthy way to do competition.
Okay.
The important thing is to remind them too that ultimately they're on the same team.
Yeah.
That ultimately in real life they're on the same team. So just like you might have that games and competitions within our family were like scrimmages on a football or soccer team where we're
Mhm.
playing against ourselves so that we can increase our strength, but the real competition is out there.
We've got a whole chapter about this in Raising Real Men, and we look at the biblical case that says that, hey, athletics and competition are biblical in
Well,
proper balance, that
a
they're
lot of
not something
Christians
to
argue
be,
that they're not, though.
well,
But I don't see that in scripture because in
mm-mm,
scripture,
mm-mm.
God does not use a bad thing as an analogy for a good thing.
And we see that our Christian life is spoken of as a race that we run.
Run the race that's
Yeah.
set before you.
And you see through the Old Testament, you see in the kingdom of Israel that there were men who were renowned for their strength and they were honored for their strength, but they had expectation that, hey, you've got the strength that you need to be in the army. You are a warrior and a leader, using that
God has
strength
given
that's
you the
given you.
strength for a purpose.
And that's not to say that, hey, this guy's strong and you're not as strong as he is, so you're worthless. No, no, it's not saying that at all, but it's recognizing the excellence where excellence exists and that the competition, whether it's wrestling or whether it's running a race or anything else, it's spoken of as something that when done in the proper balance according to rules. Paul specifically says you've got to compete according to the rules.
Yes.
Those
But
are
to race is so as to win.
right. And so those are good things. Those are good things to exercise at home and to recognize and to teach to your kids. Hey, you know what? We can have fun doing this, but it's really practice for the bigger conflict that we're called to engage in the world around us. Okay.
Yes.
And so, yeah, those are some good things to think about.
And when we teach them those things, then competition can be fun in our family and it can be beneficial. It can be a good thing.
Hmm.
And it can be super motivational because you know what?
Hmm.
My guys will do those math sheets.
Yeah.
And they will race to do it faster than their brother, even if all they win is a gummy bear.
Yeah.
Because it's the winning.
Well, that's a good thing. And
In the next segment, Hal, I want to talk about how can you help kids to build relationship together? How can you build
mhm,
the positive part of relationship with your among your siblings, the kids, the siblings in your home? How can you help them to be on the same team and to become friends?
okay. Well, I think that's a good thing. We ought to come back after that break. And so that'll be in our third segment. And if you're just joining us in this one, jumping into the middle, we want to encourage you look us up online at halandmelanie.com/radio,
For our
or
podcast or raisingrealmen.com for our blog and resources.
you can call our
Subscribe, comment,
yes,
share.
and you can call our listener response line at 919-295-0321.
We'd love to hear your questions,
Okay,
and they will
great.
address them in a future podcast.
Okay, great. I'm Hal,
And I'm Melanie.
and we'll see you after the break.
All right, take care, y'all. Bye.